Hello, everyone. How's everybody today?
Doing good.
We're we're good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining today. So, I wanted to talk about women in music and specifically a little bit about how it relates to your experience in Asia. But of course, if you've worked in other countries outside Asia, maybe relate some of your experience too. While we might be talking about the harsh issues or problems, feel free to share any good points too, good experiences that you've had as well. But I'm thinking specifically today, we might want to talk about some issues of sexism, harassment, being ignored in the scene as a woman, since it is predominantly male based in most cases. So before we start, let's everybody introduce themselves. Let's start with Pyra, please. Tell the people who you are.
Okay, hey everybody. My name is Pyra, and I'm an artist, singer, producer, songwriter. Now signed to Warner Music, and I'm based in Bangkok at the moment.
Fantastic. All right, next.
Hi, everyone. My name is MC Galang. I'm the co founder and creative director of The Rest is Noise. Basically, The Rest is Noise is a Manila based music production curator and online publication. So, we've been around since 2015, and this year is supposed to be our fifth year anniversary. And I, I talked about it on the year in review. We had tons of stuff planned out for this year, but obviously that didn't happen. And I'm excited to talk about this topic. I think this has largely been ignored, or if not, just never talked about at all. So I really look forward to having this conversation with you guys.
Great. So my name is April, and I gave some of my introduction on my own speech that people can watch. But the quick thing here is I'm based in Tokyo, Japan. I've been here for about 11 years. I work predominantly in artist development and management with domestic artists here in Japan, but I also provide some artist services like hunting for a label or hunting for shows or tour coordination or management for overseas artists that come into Japan. Before moving to Japan, I am from the United States and I did work in the music industry there as well, doing radio DJ, sound engineer, and then starting into artist promotion. So sometimes my experience with the issues of women in music got kind of blurs between like, okay, did that happen here in Asia or was that in the United States? So yeah, I'm interested to hear other people's experiences and hopefully our talk might spur discussion on other women who might watch our video and we can kind of grow this into a larger discussion. Okay, so I guess let's begin and talk about some of our experiences. I'll start with just a short story and then I'll turn it over to you. I think two instances. One very recent. There was another woman, a Japanese woman, that I wanted to join the discussion, but in truth, she was afraid to join the discussion because she felt if I go public to say I'm having these problems and someone that I work with sees it, I'll become known as a troublemaker, that I shouldn't mention such things like that, that I should ignore it, that I should get over it, that I shouldn't discuss it. So I think the fact that in December of 2020, we have people who are afraid to talk about it says a lot. And then I'll go back to one of my first experiences when I was 17 years old. I was working for a radio station as a radio DJ, and I had gotten this chance, I and a friend, to interview a up and coming, very well known band at the time. And she and I went to the place like after the show to do the interview. And in the room, kind of the green room where there were some other reporters, from other magazines, newspapers, local TV, band management. There was a rather well-known radio DJ, older, and I was 17. And I guess he did not realize that I and my friend were there to interview the band. We were there legitimately. And he came to me and basically said that if I would do him a favor, that he would introduce me to the band. And I said, no, no, no. And I was, 17 and kind of scared about it. And he kept pushing that if I would do him a sexual favor, that he would introduce me to the band. And then, of course, my friend pipes up with, we already have an appointment. We're already on the schedule. And he was like, oh, and he laughed it off. Just last year, I was talking to another radio DJ who's friends with that DJ from years ago, because certainly I'm much older than 17 now. That same DJ is still semi-known in the US, and his reputation is that he harasses girls, that he has a long history of asking girls for favors along the way. And when I shared with my acquaintance that I was one of those girls he tried it with, still in 2019 at the time, it was just laughed off like, oh, that's a great story. You can tell people. So it's a little depressing that it becomes a fun story for people to tell. And I realize times change, and maybe years ago it was thought men are men and that's what they do. But even now, people would not say, yeah, glad things have changed. It's still the same in some people's heads. So please, if anybody wants to share an experience, we can go off from that.
Maybe Pyra could go next.
Okay, I think for me, it's been an issue all my life as well that I didn't realize that it's an issue because everyone loved to laugh it off, right? Like saying that men is gonna be men. And somehow saying that over and over made me feel like I've also normalized those actions when it shouldn't be normalized. So as an audience, like going to, like DJ concerts, I've been also sent my ass to do favors from the DJ and stuff, like we'll get like whatever VIP pass if you have sex with us or whatever. And that happens a lot. And like the groupie culture is something that's been there for a long time too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's me as um the audience. But also I've realized recently that there was also a case with me as an artist and a friend of one pretty famous promoter in Bangkok. And I thought I thought of this guy as my like really really good friend, because he was once really nice. And then 3 years later, I think he got his ego boosted because his party are famous and like his brand is pretty well known. And then somehow, okay, you guys tell me if this is sexual harassment, but we're kind of very close. But once I actually hang out with him with a guy that I'm dating at that moment, but it's a new guy. So I'm pretty sure he didn't know like we're dating. And at one moment, he actually like slaps my ass. Yeah, like and like for fun, like as if it's like a joke, like a bro friend thing to do. But also, that guy that I was dating pointed out that this is something really terrible. Like you're not supposed to laugh it off. And I was like, yeah, right. And recently, this guy is also like I haven't talked to him for a long time, but now he's come back into my circle again, and yeah, and somehow he's probably like distributing music with my label or something. So I'm probably gonna meet him in person soon. And yeah, I think this is sexual harassment, right?
Well, touching other people's bodies without them saying go ahead is definitely
Mm-hmm.
harassment. And I'm thinking he's probably not going to do that to one of his male friends. He
Yeah.
feels
Mm,
because you're a girl, and so there you go.
yeah. And I just realized like this week that this is sexual harassment.
Mm. And there's where you go. As women, sometimes, first off, we learn how to deal with it, that we just kind of shut off a part of our brain that's even going to realize it is. I mean, things happen. Uh, Now, admittedly, sometimes maybe if it's spoken, we have to think, wait, is it sexual harassment or is it just business argument or something? Sometimes we have to think, but yeah, slapping somebody on the behind, asking for sexual favors, all that kind of stuff. We start learning to go, oh, ha, 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 that's so funny, and try to put it out of our minds so that we don't have to think about it so much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's my experience.
Yeah, it's a very I hate to say this, it's kind of like of a very everyday thing almost, and it ranges from like with what happened to you, Pyra, to what happened to April. Because with April, uh, it's pretty overt, asking directly for sexual favor, and I think that there's already language for that is sexual harassment. But for what happened to Pyra, a slap on your butt, or others maybe pinch on your butt cheek or something, that would not always constitute as sexual harassment to other people, or basically just not at all. Because like you said, if he's someone that you're friends with already, people, if you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, you kind of like gaslighted about these situations, and it's on you to think if what happened to you is wrong or right. And it's just terrible,
Mhm.
because it always falls upon us women to categorize what happened to us, and almost always our fault that it happened to us. And it's just so unfortunate. And I think even though this discussion is about the music industry, I think it cuts across all corners, all industries as well, different situations, different groups of people, and it's just unfortunate. Um, when it comes to my personal experience, it also ranges differently. Like those subtle things, like not knowing that you're there as a person of authority, or that you're there because uh, you're a music person. They always kind of like dismiss you as a fan, or what is she doing here, those subtle things. And then of course to the more physical things, I guess. People who come up to you very randomly and just comment on your body, or just very randomly. And I do get that feeling of not knowing how to react. Pyra said that you're the guy that you're dating at the time, or the guy that saying that no, that's you shouldn't laugh that off or anything. But the thing is, sometimes you 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 would think that, yeah, that's right, I shouldn't laugh that off. But when you're in that moment, it's not like you're always, because it's always almost happens so suddenly that you don't know. You just kind of like, okay, what just happened? And I think it's our that automatic reaction to just laugh that off, because it's an awkward situation. And it's not like not all people would immediately register that as harassment, and and talk them off, and say, okay, that's wrong what you just did. And it happened to me so many times as well. And when I look back to it, my reaction almost always is to laugh that off nervously, like, because sometimes, it's also when you react, I think, not the way that they intended. um there's also that fear of, what if they hurt me, right? What if they grab you, or say something horrendous, things like that. I think So mostly that's my experience with that. But I think the one thing I wanted to share was something that happened 3 years ago, and it's kind of became a big thing here in Manila. So the story was in 2017 we were supposed to hold this year end festival, and then I think a week before that, or just a few days before that, there was this explosive Twitter thread that recounted all anonymously. The Twitter user is not anonymous, but the stories that she exposed were from people who said that this artist did this to me. It
Mm,
went on and on, and then up to a point where one of the named members from this band admitted to it, and he said, yeah, it was me, I didn't, but it was me. And he said this very bland non-apology, saying that I'm sorry if you felt something like that. So basically the story with that particular guy was he cornered that girl, their fan, the band's fan, by the way, inside a car. I And then the others similar stories that they were like sharing this fan, the band members, and then they were very vocal about it, and they think it was some sort of conquered story, conquering story. And and then someone, an acquaintance, DM'd me about it and said, "Have you read this?" Because at that point, I didn't know. I was not on Twitter at that very moment, and then I read it, and then one of those bands was supposed to play at our festival, and um, it was just very immediate. I immediately contacted my co-founder and I said, I do not feel comfortable having this band play for our festival. And so the morning after we announced that we are dropping this band from the lineup, and I think in some ways what surprised me about this viral story, it became very viral, was that there were repercussions for that band and the other members. I mean, the other bands that were named in that Twitter thread. There are at least three, and the other two bands were also supposed to play at because since it's like Christmas year end thing. There were so many events happening at the time, and those three bands, the three most named bands in that thread, were dropped from all those other lineups. So it was, I don't know for the others what was the motivation for dropping them. Maybe because they just didn't want the drama or anything, or was it because like us, they don't want to give those people further platforms for their music. So I think for the longest time that was because before there's always whispers of this band and that band, doing these things to their fans or even their girlfriends, because I think that's what others need to understand, is that it doesn't matter who they do it to, if
mm.
if that's their fans or whoever. uh but especially because these are people who support them, and that I think to some level or some degree trust them, those artists.
It's a
And
little bit of a power, like a
that
power harassment.
power, yeah,
If you're an artist, whether well known or not, but you have some notoriety, your fan, is looking up to you. So for them to use that to kind of coerce them into providing favors is just not right. Or same like Pyra mentioning the DJs and Duressa. They feel they have a little power because they're spinning. So they think, oh, if you want to hear the music you want, or if you want the good slot in the show when it's your own time to play, because they feel that they hold some kind of power.
Yeah, and that they will use that to their advantage, thinking that you as a fan, you're thinking, oh my god, this band who I like, who I support, is noticing me, or doing me a favor, something like that. And I think that also goes to what Pyre kind of touched on earlier, the groupie culture, because it's been sensationalized, and to the point where it's like a badge of honor for others, like, okay, I slept with a band, or um and I think there we have to draw the line between if those interactions are consensual or not.
Mhm,
But even so, even if they are consensual, that there's no force or coercion involved, there still has the power dynamics in play, because no matter, still, um the relationship between the artist and the fan, w- regardless of if it's consensual, and it's just how I think about this, is that um you first became the relationship started out as fan and the artist. It's not like you were two strangers that who just kind of had this chemistry and liked each other, or physical, or if it's just physical or not. I mean, it's none of our business. But I think we have to understand that the underlying dynamics of that relationship, whether it's consensual, what happened to you in the course of that relationship, is that it started out not balanced. That you
mhm,
an artist and it was a fan. It was not like it was not, where you came into that thing, or that involvement, as equals, so to speak.
mhm, mhm. Often I think, yeah, you'll find artists trying to take the power, if it's a male artist with a female fan, but I'm sure it happens all genders, etc. But right now we're talking specifically women or female identifying people and how it goes. Um, or as you mentioned before, being ignored. Certainly working not as an artist, but working in artist services or management or helping. I've gone to venues, events, say to meet somebody, to chat about a show or to coordinate something. And I get there and they'll walk right past me and just keep going and then wait. And I'm like, okay, wait, I'm having an appointment. And then I have to go hunt for somebody to then finally make the appointment for the guy to go, oh, I didn't realize it would be a woman,
Oh,
you know, and they just passed. I mean, I guess first off, that not even the courtesy to say, oh, hi, when you walk into the building to the human that is there, regardless of gender, but to us. So it's the double fold. First, to assume that the person that's meeting you is not a woman, so ignore the woman and just ignore the human, no matter who they are, when you walk past, is very frustrating. And then you have to say, uh, yeah, I'm a woman. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the event. And it just starts you almost like on already your confidence is down, you've been pushed down a little bit, and now you're trying to supposedly deal with people as equals, to coordinate an event or work on some sort of a project. But you're already in a case of somebody saying, oh, I didn't know it was going to be a woman, and they didn't even, greet you at the door because apparently the woman was not worth greeting, or go into another thing where there's many people and you're trying to say, hey, let's do such and such, and just ignored. And then finally, you have to step up and almost kind of yell and say, hey,
yeah.
I'm supposed to be coordinating this event. Oh, huh, we didn't realize. Yeah, it's almost sometimes even they know you're the coordinator, but they decide to walk over what you're saying because you're a woman. I don't know if any of you have experienced that, where you're trying to kind of dictate your direction or what's happening, and then the men and the boys in the room feel that, oh, well, we're going to tell you what you need to do because you're the woman.
I think that's probably more severe in Japan than in Thailand or in the Philippines, because I feel that gender inequality in Japan is probably higher than in Southeast Asia. Because like the culture is that there is this type of salaryman sort
Mm,
of like population which married this type of housewife
mm,
only kind of demographic. Yeah. And I for me, I don't feel that there is much of a problem in Thailand because I even feel that there are more successful female artists than male artists.
mm.
Yeah. But I'm sure that behind the scene, especially promoters, I'm sure there's these issues because my best friend is also a female promoter.
Mm.
Yeah.
I feel in Japan, as you're right, it is a bit more of a patriarchy here in general than many of the other Asian countries. But actually, if I have to deal with fellow foreign men here,
Mhm.
I, at least outright, I feel more sexism coming from Western men who work in Japan than from Japanese men in Japan. Now, it may be because Japanese tend to be more indirect in their
Mhm.
speech. So in general, they may just deal with the situation but not work with me again because they don't want to work with a woman. But a Western man here will tell me directly to my face that I'm the B word, that I'm the C word, that how dare I do this or that, and will outright, you know, say, very dismissive statements. I think Japanese tend to be more covert at it, and I don't want to say that like they're worse people. That's not my meaning. I think they just do it differently. Um, I think sometimes when I work with the Japanese music people, it's more the I don't even rather than yelling or completely ignoring, it's more like she's an information source. So there's a venue I used to work with, Japanese male manager, and I found out to me and to other two women, two Japanese women, that this venue owner, he will call us or email us and say, "Oh, I hear you know Mr. X or Ms. Y, some famous artist. I'm wanting to invite them to a show to perform. Can you introduce me? Can you help me with that?" And I, or one of the other two women, whoever happens to know the Mr. or Ms. X that's famous, will be, "Oh, sure, I'm happy to introduce you. And what's the deal? What kind of show are you doing?" So he will tell us, and then we'll contact, the manager friend or the artist if we're friends directly with the artist, tell them, get interest, couple of back and forths, and then okay, let me just connect you with their people, etc. And several times he has done this with me or some other people I know. So then he makes a show with the artist, and then he doesn't invite us. He doesn't keep us informed. So we have to contact him and say, "Okay, so you're doing the show with, Mr. X, my friend, or Mr. X, whose manager is my friend that I invited you to. When's the show? Are you going to put me on the, can I get a ticket?" "Oh, you wanted a ticket to come? Yeah. And then, by the way, could you put me as staff so I can get backstage?" And then he'll get, "Why? Why should you be staff? You're not making this event. It's my event." Who? And it's like, but you wouldn't have this event. You wouldn't have that artist if I hadn't used my connection or my relationship with them to tell them, "Yeah, this is going to be a cool event. Please do it." And so far that I know, he's only done that to female connections. There aren't any men saying that he bypasses them like that. It's only women that he kind of gets what he needs, and then it's like, I'm done with you.
Um, I that story, well, not particularly with like with men, but just that story in general just irks me because that happens a lot with us since we're producing events. People just asking for asking you for free stuff or to get them in. And to I think to relate to that point with our discussion, I don't know if this is something that you also both of you have also encountered, but there's this thing that happens when you are being nice in general, just being a civil person, and that civility is almost always mistaken as you being interested in them sexually,
Mm,
or not in the professional manner that you are interacting or corresponding, especially with there are times where you this discussion is not, I would say that email is the most formal
mm,
form of communication. So sometimes when you have to take the conversation or correspondence elsewhere, like let's say a messaging app like Telegram, Facebook, just to have just to make things quicker, um,
mm,
and then somehow it veers from, because I think the official tone, so to speak, of the email is not there anymore, and then somehow it veers into this conversation where you're just being nice basically because you being professional, and I think as a being professional also means that you have to have that level of um being nice, but somehow it's being mistaken as
that's a come
you,
on.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, almost mistaken as a come on.
Yeah, it has happened to me so many times. Like it's just frustrating because it I mean, not no offense to you, but I'm not coming on to you. I'm just being, because we're discussing something, a business, but it doesn't mean anything beyond that. And it's just
Mm,
frustrating because and then there's all this awkwardness after that, when they thought that you were going to ask them for anything, or that they're going to offer you something. And I don't know if that's something that both of either of you have experienced as well.
Any for you, Pyra? I mean, I have a story, but do you?
No, I mean
I'm pretty sure that happens quite often. But
yeah,
then again, I forgot to take note that, oh, like
yeah,
mhm, like I normalize everything again because it happens so often.
yeah.
Hmm.
I find it frustrating because yes, that will happen too. And just I I want things to go smoothly at an event, or if I'm having a meeting, I like to be nice.
Mm,
So, for instance, if we're going to have a band rehearsal or something like that, and I'm thinking like it's, a strange time, like maybe it's at 12:30 or 1, and I'm thinking maybe people haven't eaten lunch yet or whatever. So I might go and I might take some snacks for people, in case they haven't eaten lunch. It's just being nice. Hey, I brought some snacks in case people didn't eat lunch. Sometimes men take it as a come on. And the thing is it's almost like I don't know which one to be more offended at. They'll take it as a come on, and then like afterwards they'll be like, "Hey, so, and it's almost like in that way I can say, "Oh, no, sorry, you misinterpreted." I mean, it makes it a little weird. But then the other unpleasant one is like, "Hey, I kind of felt you were coming on to me. I need you to know, no." And it's like, first, why did anybody think cookies were a come on anyway? I brought sandwiches because maybe the band hadn't eaten. And second of all, that, oh no. I mean, either way is annoying that they think it's a come on. But I almost feel like for them to also be so like, oh, I just needed you to know. No. I don't know if I'm, yeah. Mm,
I get that. It's funny. But also it kidding aside, it makes you, like, also what Pyra said, it makes you think of, it's always it always falls upon us to reassess our behavior. It's like,
Mhm.
you rewind it in your head, and you think, what did I do to make that person, that guy, think that I was coming on to him, or that he misinterpreted my being
Mhm.
civil, being just decent person, basically, for something that is that he thinks that I like him, I want him, or something like that. And it's always on you, and then you try to, I think, subconsciously adjust your behavior. And it has happened to me, because still sometimes I get that feeling where this when this person that you're I'm talking to is kind of taking the conversation away from the business, and then trying to you get you somewhere else. And
Mhm.
it's you, and it's on me to kind of like back read the conversation, like, where in this conversation um did I possibly give him the impression of that I want to do something else other than this business that we're talking about. And it's been almost like a knee jerk reaction, that it's us to think, um or if it's happened to us already, and in retrospect we're kind of reevaluating that, and then realize that, oh, I did at that time, at that very moment, I did not know what was happening, that that guy is being kind of pervy, or just kind of like shady. And it's just that I think that is a very unfortunate reality, that for us it's been almost like routine, that
Mm.
we don't recognize anymore when it's happening.
Right. And
And
as Pyra, she doesn't take notes, but then when you sit down and think about it, I think even if you don't take notes or you do take notes, you could sit down and go, you know what, I'm going to start taking notes, and you could fill a book if you look back and try to think like every time. Oh, but you get used to it. So it's like water off a duck's back. You just try to keep going as it happens, and you think, oh, I'm not experiencing sexism, or I'm not experiencing any type of harassment. No, 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 I'm not. No, I'm not. But if you then maybe a friend might say this happened to me, and then you go, that happened to me too. Oh, I am experiencing the harassment or the sexism, and I guess I've just been trying to power through. We find we're powering through it.
For me, I feel like I have probably subconsciously I've taken notes, and I've subliminally actually start taking action upon it without noticing again. So
Mhm.
actually my upcoming three singles is all about feminism
Good,
and
good.
about, challenging this particular issue.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel that by making songs like this, at least everyone at Warner Music and my team, they know and they kind of, like mark me as one of Asia's strongest female act, as in I say what I think, like I'm the boss and this kind of stuff. And I feel that with this marked on top of my head, mm, people are not gonna harass me again,
Mhm.
when they know that I'm all about feminism. I feel that this kind of protects me in one level. Yeah, which is kind of cool actually.
Well, it is good. And if you're with a good team of people who support you and do not do those behaviors and do not support those behaviors in other people that try to come in the circle, hopefully it's going to show a good example to not just other female artists, but women who work in the industry. But again, though, it does make it's like it was your job
yeah,
to write that type of music. It's your job to surround yourself with the right team. It's unfortunate that it has to be our job as women to who can I trust and who can I not trust. And now I have to write this type of song, or not that you have to, that's not what I mean, but that that it somehow is always it comes to us to have to stop it, stop the
Mhm.
problem, and surround ourselves with better people and make the cause for the enough. It's we need more male allies in this type of situation to make things better. Do you think things are getting better, worse, or the same from what you're seeing?
For me, I
Mm,
think 2020 is a year with a lot of protests coming out to, fight for equality, which is great, which is like super awesome. But
mm,
somehow I also have this personal experience where like things go the opposite way that I expected. Because people tend to call out everybody, they witch hunt literally everybody, every celebrity
mm.
who, like did some wrong action in the past, and then they kind of like throw shit at them like this year. And I was one of them.
Oh,
Like somebody actually dug my interview 5 years back saying that I I said this in the interview that I'm not a feminist. But the question is, are you kind of a feminist? And I feel that by actually phrasing the question like that is already a leading question that's not supposed to be done. So
mm-hmm,
but I don't want to, I know the journalist and I don't want to blame her. But
mm-hmm,
then my response back then was that I didn't have enough knowledge about feminism to say that I'm a feminist. But then 5 years later, people posted on Twitter and it was like 20,000 reposts and people tagging me and like saying that I'm a misogynist
mm,
without actually checking my new article where I'm already like the biggest feminist artist like in this era, like right now. But they're still, they just read that one Twitter post and then they start bashing me that I'm a misogynist, which is so crazy now that I'm like all about women and equality and you know it from my music. Yeah, I just feel like people need to really fact check before they like witch hunt anybody that goes against their, belief and value.
mm-hmm. That is something very important. And when you look at somebody's past, I think whether again does have issues with sexism, harassment, or any type of issue, when you look into somebody's past, it might it gives you some clue as to them, doing a little background research. But you have to check and see legitimately, have they changed? Has their opinion grown and updated? I mean, I would hope that we all have changed from 5 years ago. Because if we are all just staying the same, our skill level, our thinking, our thoughts, our activities, then I think we're not proper humans if we're not constantly growing and evolving our mindset.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I do agree. Absolutely. And I think it also speaks to that that call out culture that it affects um it's very much aggressive and harsher again on women, on queer people. Um it's just because the topic of feminism, I guess it's all almost like been co-opted for
Mhm,
so many reasons, for so in so many forms. And I don't think that for me at least, uh having to name that mission of that personal belief of yours, I think is it doesn't really serve anybody, but honestly other people. I'm sorry. uh I guess my point with that whole thing is that feminism has become such almost like a dirty word because
mhm,
of just so much hate, because people think that if you're a feminist that you automatically hate men, or you think that women should have more rights than men.
mhm,
Absolutely not the thing. It's absolutely it's also like when the LGBTQ people, the community, um demand equal rights. That there's the word already, equal. It doesn't mean that they want more rights or special rights than the straight people do. It's basically just equal, having the same rights that that the majority has, because it has
Mhm.
to apply to all. And it's just very unfortunate, uh when you are trying to speak up your mind, when you're trying to claim your agency and your power as a person and as a woman, that you are being battered with all these things, and say that you hate men, or that you're being called all these nasty words.
Mhm.
But especially when men try to say the same exact thing, that want I want equality, that uh basically the same thing, that they are tagged as defiant or brave or courageous. But if it's women, you're being a B word, you're being a C word, all of those things. It's very frustrating, and I totally understand that that vitriol online is just too much, I think. Not even
Mhm.
getting into the whole call out culture, but just that assertion of your beliefs, and then you're being called, somehow it's to your detriment.
Mhm. Mhm. And sadly, some women who are asked even now, "Are you a feminist?" would be afraid to say yes. If they think about their beliefs, yes, they are. But like you say, the word has become demonized because some people would like us to think feminism means, as you say, hate men, want women to be in charge of everything, for men to be super subservient, for women to make more money, to have more chances, to be placed in positions that they are not qualified for just for being women. That you can see, of course, especially for younger women. Imagine some 18, 19, 20-year old coming, to her own and being asked, "Are you a feminist?" Might be like, what should I say here? I want to be for, or you'll even hear them, "Oh, I'm all for women's rights, but I'm not a feminist."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
the reason why I declined that interview was that I feel that feminism is more about man hating back then, five
mhm,
years back. That's why I didn't have the confidence to say that I am.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
When it's
and
all actually about equality.
mhm, exactly. And I know some people would say, well, maybe we should change the word to humanism, but again, why is it up to us to change what we're doing to placate other people's feelings? Um, and that comes like when dealing. I mean, maybe you have own like. Uh, Hopefully, Pyra doesn't have to do this, but change your language. In other words, if you just go into a meeting and say, "Okay, I need this done by 5," as a woman saying that, oh, she's so harsh and abrasive.
Yeah.
As a woman, you're supposed to say, "Hey, I hope everybody can get it done by 5. That's not too much trouble."
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
a man can just go in and say, "Hey, I need it done by 5." Nobody thinks anything of it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And for me, I think I'm starting to adapt that, and not be ashamed when when you're asking for things that are reasonable to begin with, or um not to kind of manipulate your language in a way where um you have to sound pleasing to
Mm-hmm.
other people, when it's just stating a fact and just asking reasonably for something that has to be done anyway. um
Mm-hmm.
and I'm learning to do that, in spaces, especially like with us, I think. With what you and I do, April, we're very behind the scenes kind of people. So I think that's also another reason why you're already working. You're not very visible. You're not you're not very visible, especially with this kind of setup right now where we're all kind of like doing things online and just
Mhm.
email, so there's like no face to the person that you're talking to. And then they always have this sort of mild surprise when they find out that the person they're talking to is a female.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of like trying to do that more and more, but not, I don't want to like kind of like declare, hey, that declare anything else, but just be not be um not excuse anything, and just, kind of like own up to that, I would say empowerment. And because I realize that there's nothing wrong, doing that, because
Mhm.
like you said, when men do it, it's when men do it the exact same thing, nobody really thinks of it. So why should it matter if a woman does it?
Mhm.
What's really the difference? And I guess when you keep doing that, and other people would see that, and they would just, okay, it's fine. I guess it only differs when they have some kind of violent reaction to that, and say something about it. But otherwise, I think that adopting that kind of behavior it feels pretty good.
Mhm. Mhm. So, do you feel that your markets, your areas are open for women in music? I mean, not just as artists, but also behind the scenes. Do you feel that there's almost a barrier to breaking in as a woman, more of a barrier than there is for men? Or do you think it's about equal?
Should I go first?
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I feel that Thailand, we have higher rate of gender equality compared to like Southeast Asian country because there are more women, women CEO, women in management. It's quite common, and like women are actually usually the boss of the house. So I feel that there is probably less barrier of entry to actually enter music in all sorts of way, whether you're an artist, promoter, or booking agent.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, if somehow then Thailand could teach the rest of the people some facile.
I'm curious,
The world.
Pyra.
Oh, you can go first.
I want to ask, like in your career, especially, well, not maybe when you were starting out, but up to now, because I think this is common, especially for female artists, that you were told at some point to conform to some kind of appearance or some kind of behavior for you to fit in, as an artist, as a female artist. Try to tell you,
Mhm.
okay, you should talk like this, or you should look like this. Any kind of that. Have you experienced that?
Yes. And it was like the best thing ever that I like choose to not listen to it.
Mm.
Actually, when I first started, I got this, friend producer who are older that helped me out, produce music for free for me just because he want to help out, which I'm grateful for. But then I feel that there's this point where he keep telling me what to do too much that I didn't like I kind of believe in him because I didn't have that much confidence when I was starting. And somehow I decided that that's probably not the way to go. And this is how I'm going to be. This is how I'm going to look and dress up. And I'm going to sing in English no matter he keeps saying that, you got to sing in Thai to make it. So I choose to not listen to him at all and then go like do whatever I want in the path that I believe in. And I think that proof that I'm right about not listening to him now
Yeah.
that I'm here this far.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I guess that's also because, like you said, with I think it also plays into that your surroundings and your environment in Thailand, where women are not seen as okay, always almost like second class citizens, that you always have to be subservient or below men. And I think that that really shapes how people think, not just women think, but society in general thinks that if you do this, it's just normal. It doesn't mean that you are being a B word or whatever. For us here in the Philippines, I think in some ways there are similarities with the rest of Asia. It's still very patriarchal. We're largely. I also think that religion has a lot to do with it. The Philippines is the, I think, the biggest Catholic nation in the world. Uh, so there's still a lot of that play into men being the provider, and they are the head of the house, and that they are, basically in so many respects, if not all respects, better than women. They're
Mm,
stronger, that they are more capable and things like that, and that women are seen as, women are not seen as individuals themselves. They always have to be attached to men, and but with men it's just not the case. But I think there's been considerable development in that area, in the sense that women are more outspoken, especially I think in the independent music community, because I think one of the reason is that there are no these female artists and these females in indie music community, they have to really earn what they get. They have to fight their way through that, and that there's no they don't have to answer to to corporate people telling them what to do, or that if they did, they are in a position already where if they were if they were deprived of what they were asking for, that they would just go out and do their own thing. I think that that's very promising, and it also goes with the LGBTQ community here as well. And I'm very very proud of that. I think it always that kind of movement always goes hand in hand here. That it's almost always intertwined. The struggles of women and the LGBTQ here in the Philippines, and especially with now that um, we're seeing I'm sorry, we're seeing the norms kind of like being broken down. So we're actually, women creators, women um females basically are, I'm sorry, someone's calling, are reclaiming their position, so to speak.
in Japan, I think we all know that Japan's government loves to push out those idol groups.
Oh,
Um, for girls, well, when it comes to weight, I think it doesn't matter, boys or girls. Japan is you should be extremely thin. So anybody that does not suit that very thin is not really going to be pushed in the mainstream. Now, what happens in non-mainstream, of course, that's very open and different, but for mainstream pop or hip hop or popish rock, very thin. And for girls, it's like you should be cute, not pretty, not sexy,
Mhm.
cute. Maybe you can go tomboyish cute or schoolgirl cute, but these are your options: tomboy cute, schoolgirl cute, not adult woman sexy, not elegant, not grungy, but cute. So they push this again. I'm just talking mainstream, not the other thing, but what they push is just very mainstream, and how they want them to act or the type of makeup or behavior is really defined by the label. Like, you shouldn't be dating because you want the fans to think that you're there
yeah.
for them. And even it's a little less now, but 7, 8, 9 years ago with K-pop, the the promo photos for a K-pop artist would completely be different from Korea to here. So in Korea, like Girls' Generation or something, they would have kind of sexy outfits on and full makeup, and they would look very beautiful. And then for Japan, suddenly they're in pink makeup and they're like, kawaii. And they change their clothes, they change their behavior, they change their makeup to appeal to the Japanese audience. For sure,
Mhm.
I think a little bit of change is important for localizing for various cultures. I mean, obviously, every country is different what they like, but it wasn't just like a 12 to 15% change to a it was like 80% change in the entire look, and they would even change the dance routines to be more simple and cute because they want everything to kind of appear like any semi cute girl. This is her. This is what she can do. She can dance like this, no better than this. So great dancers were not coming, the outfits were not coming. Um, I think at least with K-pop now, K-pop is strong enough that when the K-pop girl groups come into Japan, they don't have to change as much anymore because the way they are is appealing. But for mainstream pop, J-pop, it's still very cute, just cute. Um, so of course, I much prefer indie bands or up and coming bands where they're doing what they want to do and they're not particularly concerned about what a label thinks of them. And maybe they'll make it, or who knows. But I know that I have shown indie bands or artists to like larger labels, and sometimes the first thing the person will say is, "Oh, I really like the music." Then they'll look at a picture and they'll either be like, "She's too fat," or "She's too sexy looking, not cute. Tell her to change. Then we'll talk to her." It's a little depressing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we cannot fix the problem, but I guess before we go, are you seeing, do you have, how can, I guess, any small action steps, what do you think, since women have to do it, what can we do, or what can we encourage our, male compatriots to do to try to make things better for women in music? Other than Thailand giving us a lesson. It's true. I do
Uh,
hear that Thailand tends to have less gender issue with
mhm.
many other Asian countries.
For me, I feel that as an artist, if your male team can actually support you, like how my male team supports me in, making feminist music and appearing really what they say they call me like weird, right? Like I have this hand tattoo and I may makeup look like this, and that's basically what you've touched upon. I actually changed my um wardrobe and outfit so that I can challenge this gender norm of beauty in like the world, because I want to show the world that it's actually okay not to be pretty, and it's actually okay to be weird and to be like whatever you want to be. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's why I look like this pretty much every day, and that's why I got a hand tattoo, because I want to challenge the whole industry, the whole world actually, that people who got hand tattoo are not bad people, and that we can still work with people in the corporate world and we can still make it. Yeah, I just feel that these kind of things can be challenged and everyone can start in their own ways too, because if tomorrow 10 more women actually start doing art makeup like me, I feel that that's already creating a small type of impact.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like for us, I think I echo what Pyra said. I think it doesn't just fall upon us to, try to make changes, but also it has to be a collaborative effort. Um, and it heartens me, when, especially, with my my male friends, when they try. Number one thing is, to try to listen. When we are speaking, don't interrupt us. Don't don't belittle what we're saying, or just listen. And I think that's how we start conversations like this one, and involve them, because like what we've been saying, feminism is, it's not about women having more rights or having more opportunities, or or getting rid of men. It's about equality. So that having that inclusivity, and just the willingness to listen, and start conversation, without invalidating our feelings or experiences. That's how we start. It seems like, it seems obvious that I think not many people realize that, because it seems easy, right? But that's, I think, actually how we start, because before, especially that 2017 incident, my male friends, we don't really talk about any of these things. But I think that incident sort of made them reflect. I think for the first time, it made the men reflect on their own behavior, on what they're doing that may be their affecting women around them. Not just their women who are close to them, their friends or their girlfriends or their family members, but women in general, that makes them think, okay, are the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm saying, okay? Is it is it harming other people? Um, so having that conversation, having that openness, I really appreciated that, and we continue doing that. And I think that's kind of infectious in a way, that it also, coming from men, unfortunately, that they have to set the standard, or the tone of having this conversation amongst themselves, and with women, that they will affect other men to do the same as well. And hopefully, we go to this better place, to this better setting, that they feel, that they listen to us, that they consider, that they include us in the conversation.
Mm, very important. And I think certainly in music, it would be nice if more, like once we can go back to in-person conferences, online conferences too, but in-person conferences, if there's always, here's a panel on how to distribute your music, and here's a panel on stage performance, and how about panels where women are sharing what's been happening to them? No men on the panel, because we don't need them to moderate and say, oh, well, no, that's not so bad. But for women to actually be willing to share their experience, because again, like I said, I had an acquaintance that could have shared, but she was afraid to. If women will share their experience so other women can go, oh, it's not just me. It's not only happening to me. And that women and then men in the audience also can hear those stories and realize it happens. I was just talking to a male acquaintance recently who said that he had read just recently that 1 in every 4 women has experienced some type of potential physical sexual assault, whether it actually being assaulted or close to being assaulted or a threat of assault. And he was like, I had no idea. And he's like, surely that's not true. And I said, surely it is. And we happened to have 9 women in the room and said, okay, how many of you have either been assaulted, threatened of an assault, or, so close to it? And all but one raised their hands. And he was like, I had no idea. I had no idea, because no woman had ever shared with him before that that type of situation had happened. So maybe just sharing, and even now we're talking, of course, in music, but sharing that, okay, as a female artist, I sometimes feel this is happening because I'm a woman, or as a woman working in management, or as a woman working in tour coordination, this happens, this is how I'm treated. Maybe some of these gentlemen don't even realize it's happening. And once they realize it's happening, they can be allies. Maybe they have not done the bad behavior. They can be allies. Maybe they have done the bad behavior. They didn't even realize they were doing it just from their own inert, I hate to say prejudice. That sounds kind of negative, but their own initial prejudice, of course, towards women, not in a, I guess, not in a cruel way, but in a ignorant way. they may be doing that. So yeah, I'd like to see more education and telling people that this is happening. And also more women supporting women. I think sometimes women don't, I guess because of the stigma against women, especially in the industry side, some women are like, I don't want to work with another woman because then they'll think it's just like a group of chicks and that we don't know what's happening. So I'm going to go alone and I'm only going to work with men because then, maybe I can make that group of men take me seriously. So I'd like to see more women collectives, and then of course I do, and a mixed collectives, of course. But as we know, in general now, it seems, when we go to a conference, when you look at all the business people, how many are women? Um, yeah, you're looking at it and you're like, anyone here? Any other women that do what I do? No. Okay. So it's kind of difficult to find. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining. I think we've not solved the world's problems, unfortunately. Maybe next time. But hopefully, just by having this video, people will watch it, and maybe, yeah, if even one or two other women that watch it, get some inspiration, to move forward and do something. And if one or two men that watch it realize, maybe I should reassess myself, we've made a positive impact and hopefully it will grow.
Thank you so much for inviting me and April.
Well, thank you
Oh,
so
and
much.
Mary.
Thank
Yeah.
you for
Thank you so much. And hopefully by next summer, we'll actually be able to be in the same country or city.
Mhm.
I have to say, actually, usually I do go to Thailand every year for like 6 weeks,
Oh,
just because I like Thailand. And I am so irritated these days because I cannot leave the country I'm
can't
in.
wait to go to Tokyo. I go to Japan maybe 3 times a year.
Exactly. So come on by and I'll go back
Mhm.
to Thailand too. Yeah. There you
I
go.
hope next year.
Yeah, hopefully so we'll be able to meet in person soon at some place. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you.
Take care,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.